Hello, everyone. I'm J.S. Garrett, and this is From the Ashes interview series. I have a very special guest with me here today. We're going to talk about love magic and war magic. I have the one and only Sorsha Runarius. How you doing, Sorsha?
Hey, I'm doing good, JS. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, hell yeah. The pleasure is mine. Yeah, I wanted to jump on and chat with you about this because, for one, we both offer a love spell. And that's been quite interesting. It's been a lot of fun, and I think we can both drop some good information about those workings and the complexity of love magic. And then I want to dig into war magic because that is something that you are becoming famous for. You do some very interesting outside the box things, and quite a nasty bag of tricks you carry there. So. I definitely want to probe and ask some questions and find out whatever you're willing to share about those two subjects.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. These are two of my most favorite topics. I mean, love, war, sometimes two sides of the same coin, you could say. It's definitely, both involve, intense feelings, intense passion. It's very primal energy on both ends of that spectrum for sure.
Yeah, I think those are probably the two most intense emotions. And those are two, I think, of the most common reasons that people come to magic or come to the occult or hire a professional magician is for love or revenge, typically.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had some interesting cases. I've had a lot of success in this area of love magic, and I've had some other situations that I feel like I need to touch on and address a little bit also. So first of all, can you tell us about your love spell that you offer?
Well, the one that I offer through From the Ashes Publishing, it's, I call it sexual sorcery. It can embrace, love, sex, lust, all of those types of feelings. I approach it, from a more chaotic magic type of approach because that's, what I do. And, I don't know, like I do part of it. I had to think very carefully before offering it as a service because of the nature of it, and so part of it is, I do the consult and then kind of find out what somebody is really, what the underlying desires are. And then part of it is live, what I do for, the love magic. I will either I will usually invoke an entity such as Lilith into me, and I'll have her sigils painted on my flesh, and I will channel and invoke that energy within myself, and tap into that, and then tap into the energy field of the person involved, the client, to be able to just that energy is I see it as a cosmic template. And so being able to infuse another person's energy field, connect it with that energy field, then they start resonating along those lines. And then that energy can be pushed into whatever magical goal. I mean, as you know, some people approach sex magic as, generating sexual energy, and then at the point of orgasm, releasing the intent into the universe. That's, one way that it can be managed. And it could be for, for things of a carnal nature, or it can be for any kind of a ritual, but just simply using that as your energy base, using that primal energy.
Yeah.
But the people who have come to me for this particular rite, we'll chat in the consult, and then the part of it that is live, in person, I will channel an entity live. I will, connect with them, let them feel the energy kind of coming through me. And it starts to just, there's a little bit of energy play. I'll reach out tendrils. I'll use some vampiric techniques. I'll reach out tendrils. I'll play with their energy just so they get a feel for what that feels like. And then, go off camera because the rest of it is pretty personal. And, it's, I don't want to go that far with this particular service. It's, I will then generate, on my own off camera, they, the call is ended, they go off, and, I give them some suggestions, whatever they're comfortable with doing, but if they're coming to me for sexual things, they're usually, there's a strong need. So they're usually willing to be open to the suggestions that I offer. And I will usually have them, if they want to work solo or if they have a partner they're working with, they would then generate that energy on their own, and I would generate energy on my end, and I would direct that energy on their behalf for their goal. So I'm generating energy on my end, they're generating energy on their end, and then launching it out. And so far the feedback I've gotten has been pretty good. There's been more, you know, just a feeling of that, that confidence, that charisma. The target people that, they were aiming for have been a little bit more responsive and open to their advances. I feel like it's such a primal personal energy. And I think that it's something that it's kind of taboo in a lot of circles. But I think that's why we should play with it more and bring it out more, because we are sexual creatures by nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right-hand path people hate love magic because it works.
Absolutely.
Anything that works is bad, Fairies, unicorns, meditation, good. Anything magic is bad, especially if it works.
Oh, because it empowers you, and we're not supposed to be empowered.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be slaves.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're supposed to want power.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes and do what you're told.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I had some pretty interesting cases, some pretty awesome successes. But and most of my clients that come to me for love magic are very sane, decent, intelligent people. They understand how magic works. They understand metaphysics on a scientific level, and they have very realistic expectations for what we're going for. That is not everyone, though. Some have very unrealistic expectations, and love magic's very complicated because we're complicated. Our situations are complicated, and we don't always want things that are tangible. If you are a 50-year-old virgin and you want to be married to a 20-year-old supermodel, probably going to be pretty difficult. You need some pretty heavy-duty magic to make that happen. And I'll have other clients that they expect overnight results. Like they will literally expect the person to be on their doorstep the next morning, even though it's a lot of relationships that ended badly. One party left. There's been a lot of time in between. And a lot of times those people are already mixed up in other relationships. So, that's fine. That's doable. But you got to understand all the things that have to happen and fall into place in order to bring you back together. First of all, there's a reason why it didn't fucking work out the first time. Okay. Because there were problems and changes need to be made within both of you. Second of all, if they're in another relationship, then that relationship is going to have to dissolve. And typically both parties in that relationship are going to cling to each other as that's being slowly pulled apart. It's not going to be violent. It's going to be a slow thing that happens, because the entities that I work with, they're not just going to and set them back on your front porch. It doesn't work that way. So I'll get emails once in a while saying, "Hey, JS, it's been 5 days since you performed my spell. When is she coming back? When is this going to work?" And so those are a little bit frustrating, unrealistic. I have other clients that, they might have me cast a spell on someone that doesn't even know them, doesn't even know they exist. And so that's really hard to make happen if the person you're spelling doesn't know who you are. You kind of need to make an effort, on your end. The physical actions have to match the metaphysical actions. You can't just stay in your mom's basement and expect Miss Perfect to come down there and find you playing on your Xbox. So
that is such a good point, though. It's amazing how many people, are just either they're fucking lazy, or they don't put in any work. They just, they have this expectation that magic's going to fix all of their problems, and, wave your magic wand, everything is fun and dandy. And that is not the case. Yes, sometimes you can get pretty spectacular results really quickly. That's great. But a lot of times, people have to learn some life lessons, make some changes in their life. They have to, either recognize or create opportunities. They have to get out there and put themselves, in a position where, hey, they are in line with this current, with this flow, with this intent. If they're just, like you said, sitting in their mama's basement, I don't think much is going to happen.
No. It's like casting a spell to help you find a job, and then you never fill out an application.
Exactly.
This will definitely help you. Love magic will help you a lot, but you have to make an effort. You have to do your part. You have to get out of the basement And it really helps if the person you're spelling has a clue that you exist. You know, if not, then you need to go introduce yourself shortly afterwards. I mean, how they gonna find your front door if they don't know who you are, where you live? So
Exactly. You know, a lot of people also, you know, the big question that people have is, well, what about free will? What about manipulation? Well, I mean, okay, as a black magician, you know, we do whatever the fuck we want. If we see a need, like we're not necessarily bound by other people's, you know, morals and dogma and expectations. I mean, you know, but I mean, I guess we all have that line. A lot of people won't even touch love magic because they feel like it's, you know, spiritual rape. It's too manipulative. And, you know, while it could end up feeling like that for some people, you know, for others like myself and, you know, maybe, you know, for you, I mean, if you look at it like, okay, you have this intent and it's like you're putting it out there and, you know, the forces involved, you know, work with that. So it's like you're planting seeds. I mean, you're calling forth things that, you know, like if there's a guy who wants a girl back, you know, okay, like you said earlier, you know, they obviously are apart for a reason, but they were also maybe drawn together for a reason. So this could be like, you know, reawakening what was already there, or if there's a possibility that there are feelings there, it could, you know, fan the flames of that. So it's, you know, not always as, you know, sinister as a lot of people, I think it is. I mean, it can be, but it
yeah,
doesn't have to be. It's planting seeds. It's, you know, whispering to those, you know, inner frequencies that would be receptive to whatever it is, you know, the client is wanting or offering. And it just kind of aligns that. So it's just, I see it as working with what's already possibly there.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you touched on several good points there. And it can totally, any type of magic can totally be sinister. You know, it's all on how you use it. It depends also on the entities you work with. Like I'm very specific about which entity I summon for this, and that is for the reason that, you know, everyone knows that I call it Astarte's ultimate love spell, and big part of why I evoke her for this ritual is because she has no tolerance for abuse, especially abusive men. She's not going to totally override a woman's free will to drag her back into an abusive relationship. It's just not going to happen. If anything, she's going to chop the abusive man's balls off for asking her in the first place. But what you got to understand is, yeah, there was a reason it didn't work out in cases where you're trying to bring two people back together. So in doing this spell, it creates the changes within both people, the internal changes, in order to make them compatible for each other, which growing pains are going to happen. I mean, change is not easy. It's not easy for us to admit we are not fucking perfect. Okay. So you're going to go through and experience some internal changes. And if you're willing to make those changes, then yeah, you will most likely get exactly what you're going for. But, you know, it takes time and it takes some effort on your part. So I've never used love magic to seduce someone, probably only because I was married before I got into hardcore ritual magic. But I have used my own love spell to improve my own marriage, and that's very effective. My wife and I sat down and did the ritual together. Nothing
Awesome.
sinister about that. It was just like, hey, you know, we've been married 10 years. You know, I fucking want to rip your face off for this, this, and that. You know, there's some resentments there. So we're going to sit down and do this ritual together just to make our relationship better. And that's exactly what it did. It's better than it's ever been since we did that. So that's really what I created the spell for. And I find that people who don't wait till it's too late, like married couples that are on the verge of divorce, when one of them hires me to do this ritual, they see change like the next day. I mean, they still live in the same house, you know. I mean, it's pretty hard for them not to see immediate changes. They might have a huge blowout afterwards where they air all their dirty laundry and start with a clean slate. But I think it's also important not to wait until it's too far gone. Otherwise, it could take 6 months for the shit to work out, for them to break up with whoever they're with, for you to let go of your mistress on the side and make the changes necessary for you to come back together and have a healthy relationship. So
Definitely.
yeah, that's love magic in a nutshell from my perspective. But Yeah, there are nastier, more ruthless spells out there that'll straight up turn someone into a zombie, but I don't think that's what either one of us are doing for people. So
Yeah, it's just, I definitely, I think very, I mean, I do offer it as a service. Anybody, can do it. But I mean, if somebody, I mean, we all have that line, like it's still a case by case basis. I mean, if it's just something that they're wanting that I'm just not willing to do, then I'll let them know, but so far that hasn't happened. Everybody who has come to me has just, wanted, some people have had specific targets in mind, and I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of it has been more about just their own growth. It's been more about, you know, alchemizing their own selves, and changing themselves to then attract the right lover for them, the right soulmate, whatever that, whatever it is that they're looking for. So there's been a lot more, change happening for the people that have come to me. And they've, it's definitely kind of an amazing thing to be able to see. If I'm, connected with them on Facebook, I keep in touch. I like to follow up on rituals just to see how it's going, because I do want to be here for people and make sure that, everything is as it needs to be. It's been good so far, but I'm glad that so far people have been more interested in drawing the correct lover for them, maybe reaching out for specific people. That's fine too, but I haven't had anything really, no crazy requests. No,
yeah,
nothing unreasonable.
that's good. I've actually had one of those. Like I said, most of my clients are very decent people. They have realistic expectations. They're not bad folks at all. They're just looking for love and fulfillment. But once upon a time, I get hired to perform a love spell by a guy who was a stalker. Okay. He had been stalking this woman online for years, harassing her online for years under different profiles, stealing pics of her and putting them on sites he shouldn't have been doing, and all kinds of other shit. Just a total asshole. And so he hires me to do a love spell on this girl that he's been stalking. And of course, he doesn't tell me, hey, I'm a stalker. He gets, oh, no, we're best friends. I'm just trying to get out of the friend zone. She dates guys that are no good for her. I just want my shot. And I know this guy's fucking lying to me. My lie detector is totally going off. And I thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this right. Because I know, I know that if you are the asshole, Astarte is totally going to have her way with you. So I do the ritual for him exactly how he asked me to, as if it was exactly what he said it was. It's like 2 weeks later, the dude gets arrested for being a stalker. So, I mean, there you go. Stalkers beware. We are not here to enslave innocent people against their will. This is for people who are looking for love and fulfillment. And yeah, it doesn't work out if you're the asshole.
Yeah, definitely. That's like perfect justice right there.
Yeah, totally. But anyway, so yeah, that's about all I have to say about love magic. Do you have anything else to add?
Really not too much more. Just it's definitely something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy hearing about people's experiences. It's definitely a human need that, we all experience on some level usually. So yeah, I'm glad to offer what I do. And
yeah, most of my clients are just, I try to tell them not to target anyone specific. Just do the right to bring you the perfect lover, the perfect person for you. Let the spirit choose. And those are the ones that work out the fastest and the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the way I would do it if I were a single man looking for someone. I would leave it open-ended. I would let them choose for me. And because I know that would work out better. We don't always want what's best for us. You might get the one you're targeting, but hey, if you're not right for each other, the spell is only going to do so much. You're still going to have problems. If they're a habitual cheater, they're probably still going to fuck around, like things like that.
Yeah.
They're all different situations. But anyway, on to war magic. War magic. This is something I've been dying to talk to you about, because you do some very different shit than a lot of other things out there. Like you've got a unique style of practice, and you do a lot of things that are outside the box and that are downright scary. So let's talk about those. What are you willing to share about that?
Well, oh gosh, it's definitely one of my favorite areas of magic, because it's so, the emotions are usually, again, really intense. Like love magic, that's a very unique type of energy, but war magic, warfare. I generally would rather there be, peace between peoples when possible in groups. I definitely am one that tries to do more beneficial things, but sometimes, shit comes up, you have to deal with it. And sometimes you have to hit hard and hit first and make sure you're the last man standing.
Yeah.
We've both been faced with a lot of shit. We both had crap come at us. We've had so much stuff happen this year. It's ridiculous. And, we both dealt with it gracefully. We've both dealt with it in our own ways. And, yet here we are sitting and talking, so what we do works for us. Other people might have different approaches. For me, I mean, usually if I know something's coming at me, I'll usually know who or what it is, usually. I mean, sometimes I have to do some divination, kind of figure things out. Whether I know or not from whence it comes, I can still maybe feel the effect. I mean, even if I don't necessarily have a name, okay, it's, because I don't play the victim, I think neither one of us do. It's like we don't have to have a name because we're not necessarily assuming that we're, always under attack. I mean, sometimes, people throw that term out there so casually, in these circles. And I think that's a very disempowering thing. If people always feel like they're under attack, usually they got to look at something in their life.
Yeah.
However, sometimes it is legitimate attack. And when it is legitimate and not just, somebody having a crazy moment, then it should be dealt with. For me, like with the more baneful rites that I offer, the vampiric jars of destruction and bane, I came up with that because it was actually years ago that I made my first jar. It just kind of evolved over the years. But, for me with these jars, I have things that I have placed into the jars that are connected to specific locations, like certain graveyards that I frequent, maybe some very carefully from some legal, courthouses, police stations. I might have collected some things on the sly, things that represent forces that I want to connect with and infuse these jars with have gone into these jars. So, and if I have a rite that I'm doing for somebody, usually there's a good reason. I'm very selective when doing baneful magic. I don't just do it willy-nilly. I'm very particular. I think that there needs to be a good reason. When I offer it as a service, I definitely am consulting with somebody very carefully before I just, point a magical gun and fire it.
Curse at my ex because she left me type shit.
Yeah, I won't do that. I won't do it for that. For me, my code requires there need to be, more justified reasons than, I'm butthurt because an ex left. There's so many other ways you can deal with it before it gets to the point of, something truly, truly painful.
Yeah. You said butthurt. We should create a butthurt spell, just to alleviate butthurt, because there is a lot of that going around. I have an online butthurt clinic that people can visit for free, but sometimes it requires more than a bandage.
I know there's going to be so many memes about the butthurt clinic. Yeah, there's so many ways I could go, but yeah, it so I will then, these jars, they have an energy of their own because I've worked with them for years, and they harness a particular death energy that I've imbued them with. And they're vampiric in nature, not because of one particular spirit, but just the way that the energy cycles through them. So I have them connected to these these energies that I've anchored into the jars. Then when I'm working with the client, if something, they come with an issue that usually it's more like removing obstacles. It doesn't have to always be like truly baneful things. It can be like to remove obstacles. So it's like a warfare against, habits, situations, people that are toxic. It's a way to remove things from your life that no longer serve you. So, by petitioning these jars, so to say, like I have scrolls. So I write the request, it's not like a request, but the situation. So I ritualize the situation. I'll usually make a sigil. I will write it out on a scroll. The scroll goes in the jar. Okay. And I usually work with two jars. I have one that's more of an astral graveyard and one that is like an oubliette, a spiritual dungeon. Things can possibly leave that one. If I feel like a situation has been, justice served, then okay, people can move on and, names don't have to stay in jars. But the one that's the graveyard, names never come out. Once they're there, it's like the final resting place is how I see it. So the energies, like sometimes I will actually work with a lot of the jinn from the Book of Smokeless Fire by our brother S. Ben Kane. There's some pretty baneful, malicious entities. And so I will often, if I'm doing something truly baneful, I will oftentimes partner with one or many of those entities and apply it to the situation. But I also use these jars that then connect to these locations, connect to these spirits, and then it vampirizes the person or the situation. It drains the energy out of the circumstance, the person, the enemy, funnels it into the jar, and then it can be used to then fuel other things. It can be used to empower the client. So then the energy cycles back to the client in a positive way. So it drains the negative, and it gives a more positive energy into their experience, into their mainframe. That's the service that I offer, but there's other things that I, just do on my own in my own practice. When it comes to warfare, it's just about being very aware of your energy. It's about, protecting it. It's about, cutting off toxic people if that's the need, regardless of if they're, if they were close friends or family. If they're not good for you, they're not good for you. It's a willingness to just walk away from things that don't serve you. But it's also a willingness to be absolutely ruthless, when the time comes. There's a time for mercy, and then there's a time for absolutely none, depending on what the offense was, depending on, what it did, how I feel about it. And I'm sure, you agree. Like you've had crazy things come at you and you've dealt with them, with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Finality.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't advertise baneful services to the public at this time. Just because, the only things that I focus on there are extremely nasty, and it's not something that I'm really willing to offer to the public. But I don't discourage people from offering those services to the public, because there are a lot of situations, and I've had a few clients that have come to me with cases like child rape and things of that nature, where I'm like, okay, I don't normally offer this, but in this case it is very, very appropriate. So everything has its place, and it all depends on the situation. It's not really the best way to solve petty arguments on Facebook. I think we see a lot of that in the occult community. I don't like something this guy said on Facebook, so I'm going to throw this death curse at him that I got out of this old fucking book, because I have nothing better to do with my time. That kind of shit gets old. And anybody who's out in the public deals with Neanderthals like that. They just have too much time on their hands and a little too much knowledge to go with their immaturity. Mm-hmm. But there are cases where it is very necessary, where nothing else will solve it other than a bullet. And that is a very intelligent alternative to going to prison to resolve those situations. So I do think it is necessary, and I think it's a good thing that practitioners like yourself are offering these services. So I want to ask you, when it comes to baneful magic, what do you think is the most effective method of stopping an enemy?
That is a really good question, because there are so many different types of things, that we deal with out here. It all boils down to, how you let it affect you. For me, like if if they know they're getting to me, then it just feeds the fire. So, give them nothing emotionally. Don't feed into drama, especially, if it's, there's a lot of, quote unquote, Twitch wars, magical wars. There's a lot of bullshit going on social media between groups and people. Sometimes it just, bicker back and forth over stupid things. And, that just, it serves no purpose. It's like middle school playground taunting, it's like the kind of crap that we see sometimes, and it gets ridiculous out here. So, making a point to not feed into that, not be a part of that, focusing more on my own magic, my own path has actually, been an effective tool for me. I mean, yes, I will outright curse somebody if I feel it is merited and I, feel like doing so. Yeah, I will do so. I will do so on behalf of other people on a limited basis if it is merited for the truly painful things. For the right that I offer, again, it's more removing obstacles. We have to be careful what we don't want to put ourselves at risk. What we offer, we can't. There's just certain things that we can and cannot say legally, to cover our ass. But I would rather usually encourage people to empower themselves by removing obstacles and moving forward rather than, I get ridiculous requests all the time, hey, can you kill this person magically for me? So it's like people have, they want magical assassins. And while, yes, it is possible to kill people with magic, like, that's not a service we're going to just, offer, brag about, and put out there. I mean, whatever we do on our own time, hey, that's our business. If that's a line that we feel, hey, sometimes it's necessary, by all means, it's necessary. But I think we have to use some discretion when it comes to how we put that out there. When it comes to, okay, effective baneful things, if I'm going to, deal with something, I will usually try to drain the energy of, if I know who it is, I'll be draining their energy. I'll be, connecting to, different chakras. I will be draining their energy, and then I will try to infect them like a virus, prior to cursing them. I'm going to weaken an enemy before I curse them. I find that to be pretty effective, as just a technique. But I find being so focused on my own work, my own path, it's almost like, water off a duck's back. It's like all this other shit just doesn't even, like, it doesn't register, because I'm so focused on other things, like other people's shit just doesn't affect me. It's very, very rare when I actually feel attacked. I usually don't, and I don't know if it's just, people aren't attacking me or if it's just not effective. Could be both. I don't know. But I'm so focused on so many other things. I have so many projects. I'm so, just focused on life, focused on family, focused on magic that I'd rather invest my time in things that make me happy rather than, things that piss me off. But when things happen, they're dealt with, and it's going to be direct, and it's going to be, quick.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that a very common misconception about magic in general, but especially baneful magic, curses, is that you have to believe in it for it to work? I call bullshit on that. This is not a placebo. These very real things that will kill you.
I agree.
Yeah, and a real magician is not going to tell someone that they're cursing them. Usually, some will, I guess, but that implies that the power of the curse lies only within the mind of the recipient of that curse. And if the recipient doesn't have a fucking clue that anything is happening, then there is no placebo there. And the reason I bring this up is because this has happened more than once, where I've had a client that will hire me to help them or book me for a consultation. And I get on with them. They're like, oh, fuck, JS. I didn't think this was going to work. I got mad at this person. I did this ritual to curse them, and now they're fucking dying. What can you do? And I'm like, dude. Well, yeah, let's well, first of all, what exactly did you do? And it's, so you don't have to believe in this shit for it to work. I mean, if the anger is there and the technique is there, it will definitely work. So you don't want to throw this shit at your in-laws or, random people on Facebook or coworkers, your boss. I've had a few cases like that where someone did a curse and they didn't expect it to work, and then it did work very well, and now they're trying to figure out how to undo it and they can't. So, have you ever come across that?
Yeah, definitely. People who have regrets, people who a lot of times, they come to us because either A, they don't want to get their hands dirty, or B, they don't necessarily believe that they have what it takes to do. Which, I mean, I think everybody has what it takes to do a curse. If you have emotion, you can do
Yeah.
it. It's just a matter of willingness. It's the ethics. They come to us because they either think we A, have no ethics, or B, we're willing to do what they're not willing to do, even if they think that maybe it needs to be done. And then people come to us because, hey, they just want to hire a professional. So, if you're going to get brain surgery, go to a brain surgeon, So, they come to us for any number of, totally legitimate reasons. But I think that people, there's still that disbelief, they wonder, well, will it really work, and then it really does. And then they have second thoughts. They question it. They wonder if there's going to be some karmic repercussions. Even though we're the ones that did the ritual, they're the ones that kind of, orchestrated it. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people still are tied to dogma that has to do with karma and has to do with, ooh, did I cross a line? Did I go too far? Well, if you're at the point where you're hiring somebody for baneful magic, like, you probably should have thought it out really well before approaching us.
Yeah. Well, and another thing they got to realize is these things do work very well, but they don't always work fast. Like, sometimes it takes months or even years. Like, a lot of times a curse will result in a disease, that will take, that will kill the person slowly and miserably. And you might be mad at them now, but after 2 years of watching them go through chemo or something, you're going to be like, fuck, they didn't deserve that. So yeah, you do got to think about it, because they're probably not going to get hit by a bus every time. It's not going to be the next day while the anger is fresh. You release your anger and you don't feel that anger anymore, but they still feel the effects even years later with a lot of curses. Next thing you brought it up was karma. I want to touch on that. I view karma as a self-created phenomenon. Okay. I think that karma is the biggest mind fuck out there.
Yes.
What they have really done, they have tricked the population into using the law of attraction against themselves.
Yes.
And people do this to the point where they actually create a tulpa or an egregor that follows them around and punishes them for everything they think they did was bad. Like, you can do that. Like, regular idiotic people, or I should say mundane people who don't practice magic, they can create spirits. They can create tulpas. If they believe in karma strong enough as this spiritual force that sees everything that they do and is just waiting to punish them next time they make a mistake, they are feeding energy into that thought form. That's what it is. It becomes a thought form that does exactly that will follow.
I think you're exactly right. That is, yeah, you nailed it. That is very much, I can relate to that. I think that it's absolutely a self-perpetual, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Yeah, the only people I see suffering from karma are like good people.
People who believe in it.
Yeah. Because let's face it, I think most of us with our eyes open can agree that the people who run this planet and sit on all the wealth and make all the rules and have it the best here on planet Earth are not the best people. I mean, often we find that they are the worst, most vile people on the planet who are the most well off. And if karma was a real thing, then it would affect those people. Then the best people would be in charge. The best people would make the rules. The best people would have the best of life. Okay, we don't see that. We see a lot of good people suffering and a lot of scumbags making profit off of that suffering. Okay,
yeah.
They're not suffering from karma because they know it's bullshit. They're using the law of attraction against themselves. That's just my observation and my opinion. But I wanted to see what you thought about that.
I think it's right on. I think that's exactly it. I think that, there are, especially in more, right-hand path communities, there is that. Well, there could be some interesting, things to think about, law of attraction stuff. There might be some merit to some of it, but this whole could you reap exactly what you sow? No, because yeah, obviously then shitty people would be punished and good people would have, good things happen. And that's not always the case. You see, like little kids getting raped and, horrible shit happening to people that just, you don't think it should happen to them.
Yeah. Well, then
and
they
then
say that's God's will.
Oh yeah. They chalk it up to God because, of course, nobody wants to take responsibility for their anything. Or they want to, yeah, or it's part of God's plan. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's bullshit. I don't subscribe to karma, and like if other people want to be bound by that, and if that is their guiding principle, that's fine for them. It's valid for them because they believe in it. But I usually I'm more inclined to do beneficial things rather than baneful things. However, I do baneful things and I sleep like a baby at night. I sleep, just fine after pulling a trigger that needed pulling. It's fine. And, I find that sometimes the outcomes though, it's like, it may not be, literal death. It could be career suicide. It could be all of their friends leaving them. It could be, like you said, people could get really sick. It can manifest a lot of ways. It doesn't necessarily have to end in death. There's varying levels of, baneful things that can be applied. But it's been interesting watching some of it play out. Just certain situations that, have been dealt with. It's been interesting being in a position to see the aftermath and just kind of sit back and let it unfold. It has been interesting. Energetically, I feel like, having a strong sense of self, sense of purpose, getting rid of victim mentalities, being willing to value yourself enough to do whatever it takes to keep pushing forward. I mean, that will serve a magician well, of any type. I feel like being able to know that, you have allies, whether physical, people that you call brethren or spiritually. I think that can be beneficial. There have been times where I have had like a lot of things come at me and I've been warned about it by the spirits I'm aligned with. And then things have played out, but I had the heads up, so I didn't get hit. So being able to have those alliances with spirits, I think can be very beneficial.
Absolutely. And that's really the best way to fortify yourself is evocation. Every time you evoke a spirit, you're forging a relationship with that spirit, and that spirit will remain with you from then on as an ally unless you intentionally disrespect them.
Yeah.
I don't ever recommend doing. So, I mean, the more friends you make in the spiritual realm, the more protection you're going to have. Now, that does not mean they're going to shield your ass from every little asteroid that flies at you, because sometimes you have to deal with your own shit in order to get better at what you're doing, especially magicians. You will have situations put in your path to force you to become better if you're asking to become better. I mean, it's just how it is.
Well, and you've studied martial arts, you understand, you don't get any better by taking soft hits. So sometimes you got to fight full contact to get better. So sometimes I feel like our spiritual team will allow things to come at us full force that we might take some hard hits, but then, our guard is even better afterwards. We take hits, but then, okay, we deal with it. So I think that, sometimes that's the case. It may feel like, well, fuck, where did they go? Like I thought we were allies. Well, no, they are. They know we can handle it though, but they're hanging back, letting us handle it so we can improve.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
like that is a thing.
And I mean, another thing that I'll get once in a while is a client who's suffering from the effects of something like this. And those are always the most interesting cases, I guess, because then you get to really see how this stuff works, but you also have to figure out how to help that person. Okay. I find through my observation that magic, especially baneful magic, takes the path of least resistance. It plays on your weaknesses because that's the best place to hit you, is where you're weak, so it might be your career, it might be your health, it might be your loved ones, or it might be you personally. I mean, it's interesting how these things work and how different techniques work. But that's really the best thing you can do is constantly fortify yourself, I would say.
One thing that, people say, hey, doing baneful things, it takes a toll. I mean, it can, but I know that we've talked before about, baneful magic and generating emotion, either generating, the hatred and the anger versus, you know, um, celebrating it, celebrating the demise of an enemy. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that we talked a little bit, but I think other people might like to hear, you know, that, I
Yeah.
wish we could have recorded part of that conversation, because I think there was a lot of really interesting points that you had made. Because, most people think baneful, they think, it's angry, it's vengeful, which, yes, it can be. But, and a lot of times people stay away from baneful things because they don't necessarily want to deal with, bringing up all of those negative emotions.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely think you have to rejoice at your enemy's demise if they are indeed an enemy.
yeah.
I mean, if you were on a battlefield swinging a battle axe and you win the fight, then you're gonna, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same fucking thing. If someone forces your hand into a confrontation, then you shouldn't feel guilty about that afterwards. That guilt is unnecessary when the action is necessary. Now, if you're cursing people for no fucking reason, then yeah, you should probably feel guilty about some of that. But when it's warranted and when you exercise caution in using these things, because it is very much like a loaded gun, pulling the trigger on someone, then yeah, you should totally celebrate those victories when it's necessary.
Absolutely. I think that, yeah, again, it comes down to just, releasing your, breaking that cycle of being attached to, um, that the reason why we feel guilty or shameful about being powerful. We shouldn't. We are powerful, fucking beautiful creatures that should be able to exercise the full range of our experience, our emotions, our magical arsenal, and yeah, not necessarily do baneful things, casually, but hey, when merited, you recognize that and accept it and move
Absolutely.
forward. I
I
think
have a
that's
suggestion.
important.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I have a suggestion for people, because I mean, I know a lot of our viewers are magicians, and it is important to practice this shit and know how to defend yourself. Okay, but how about instead of practicing on people from Facebook that said something you don't agree with, if you have a curse and you're just dying to test it out, there is a state website in every state that has a photograph, full name, and all the information of every child molester that's been busted in that state. Okay.
Hell yes, that's
All right.
brilliant.
All right. I think we can
I
all
love it.
agree that fucking child molesters are excellent guinea pigs for shit like this. And if I have something really nasty that I want to test out, because I do try to pioneer and create and invent a lot of things on my own. So, I mean, the only way to know if something like that works is to test it out. I'm not going to test it on someone from Facebook or someone from work that pissed me off. I'm going to go online and find a fucking child molester and test it out on them. And the best part about it is, if they're behind bars and they can't seek out help or anything. And the only good thing about a child molester is no matter what you do to them, you don't feel guilty. I mean, they're perfect for this shit. So by all means, open season on those fuckers.
I agree, man. That's a great idea. I would love to see more people, um, doing that type of thing, because two birds, one stone. You get to practice something on somebody who actually deserves it, no question. And hey, you're doing humanity a favor by chlorinating a gene pool, possibly.
Yeah, yeah, I get really disheartened seeing like all these people in what we call the occult community attacking each other. Like, I mean, you can't make a friend in the occult community without making two more enemies. Because I mean, I can't keep up with who's friends and who hates each other from one week to the next. And of course, they're all going straight to their fucking go-to little black box of curses to fucking fire back and forth at each other. And if you want to attack somebody, fucking pick out a Catholic priest. I mean, chances are you're getting yourself a pedophile right there. So I mean, they're very organized in their attacks on the occult community. Why not give them something back, or go online and find someone who's been convicted of 4 or 5 pedophile cases, and you know for sure that you got you a good one.
Definitely. No, it's
Anyway, those are my
good
thoughts.
things to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is shit I lay there and think about at night. But yeah, yeah, I created a curse a while back, and my wife actually helped me discover this. and I'm going to share it. I've never shared this with anybody, but since we're talking about baneful magic and you shared some of your stuff, I want to throw one little piece of yummy out there. Long story short, my wife found a scorpion in the house. Okay. And so instead of killing it, she scooped it into a styrofoam cup and just set it on the kitchen counter. She figured, oh, well, my husband might use that shit, which that ended up being a really awesome thing to do. So when I get home, this scorpion stinger is stuck in the back of his head. Okay. The scorpion committed suicide. All right? They actually do that when they get cornered, like when they get trapped somewhere or cornered and they can't get away. They will commit suicide. That's where the term suicide scorpion comes from. And so I
did not know that. Interesting.
I'm like, holy shit, suicide scorpion spell, And so I'm like, all right, I got to try this. So I get a glass jar, a tall glass, like a drinking glass. And I got a round 10x magnification mirror. Okay. And I got one of the Solomon seals of destruction. I put that under the glass. I put a live scorpion in the glass with a photo of the target, which is a very deserving target that I selected from one of those websites. And so, so I put the sigil under the glass. I put the little tiny photo down in the glass. I put the scorpion in the glass. I put the 10x magnification mirror on top of the glass. So when the scorpion looks up, he sees a bigger, scarier scorpion that's gotten cornered in this glass. I then stack 6 candles around the glass, like almost touching, and light them on fire. And then I just sat back and focused all my hatred and rage for this person at that fucking scorpion. Okay, so as the candles burn down, the glass starts to heat up. They start to get cornered. They're surrounded by fire, and it kills itself. It, boom, stings itself in the back of the head. Now, the idea was that this would transfer that into the victim, into the target. And turns out it causes insanity and will drive a person to commit suicide.
That's awesome.
That's fucking cool. I mean, like
that is fucking cool.
Random experiment idea my wife gave me. I'm like, holy shit, I got to try that out. So it's a really nasty one. I wouldn't try that unless.
Again, check out those state websites and
definitely
offer up a pedo as tribute.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, I think that's probably a good note to wrap it up on. I don't want to drag this out too long, but is there anything else you want to add on Baneful Magic?
Oh man, I can't think of anything. It's been really fun talking. It's always good to chat and catch up with you, Janice.
Yeah, we are going to do this a lot more often. We're just getting started here at From the Ashes, and you'll be seeing a lot more interviews from me as well as Sorsha. I know you're doing some podcasts and things like that as well. And we're also talking about doing some live demonstrations. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're going to brainstorm and cook up some interesting experiments for you guys in the near future. So,
definitely.
Yeah. So stay tuned, guys, and we will see you next time. Good night,
awesome.
Sorsha.